She looked down at me, designer bag dripping with coffee, and smirked. "For 1 month, you're mine." I didn't know then that becoming her campus servant would lead to the hardest, most humiliating days of my life, for that it would change both our hearts forever. Sometimes life's greatest gifts come disguised as our worst nightmares. My hands were trembling as I wiped down the counter at the campus coffee shop. It was my third shift this week, and I was exhausted. Between classes, studying, and working every spare hour, I barely had time to breathe. But I needed this job more than I needed sleep. Mom's medical bills weren't going to pay themselves. "One vanilla latte, extra shot," called out a girl's voice from the other side of the counter. I looked up and immediately recognized her. Zhang Yu, the campus princess. Designer clothes, perfect hair, and a confidence that only comes from never having to check your bank balance before buying something. I'd seen her around campus, always surrounded by admirers, never alone. "Coming right up," I said, keeping my voice neutral. I started preparing her drink, trying not to let my exhaustion show. The shop was packed with students cramming for midterms, and I was the only one on shift. Just as I placed her finished latte on the counter, someone bumped into me from behind. It happened in slow motion. The cup tipped over. Hot coffee cascaded across the counter, and right onto Zhang Yu's white designer bag. Her scream could have shattered glass. "Do you have any idea how much this costs?" she shrieked, holding up her now coffee-stained bag. Everyone in the coffee shop turned to stare. My face burned with humiliation. "I'm so sorry," I stammered, grabbing napkins and frantically trying to clean up the mess. "It was an accident." Her eyes narrowed as she looked at my worn-out uniform and tired face. "Sorry doesn't fix a $3,000 bag," she said coldly. "How are you going to pay for this?" My stomach dropped. $3,000? That was more than 3 months of my salary. I can't afford that," I admitted, my voice barely audible. The crowd around us had grown silent, watching the drama unfold. Zhang Yu looked me up and down, then a slow, calculating smile spread across her face. "What's your name?" she asked. "Li Ming," I replied. "Well, Li Ming, since you can't pay with money, you'll pay with service," she announced loudly. "For 1 month, you're my personal assistant. You'll carry my books, get my coffee, help with my assignments. Understand?" I wanted to refuse. I wanted to tell her where to stick her designer bag. But I couldn't afford to lose this job, and I definitely couldn't afford a lawsuit. "Fine," I said through gritted teeth. The crowd murmured, some looking sympathetic, others amused. "Smart choice," Zhang Yu said with a smirk. "We start tomorrow. Meet me outside the business building at 8 a.m. sharp." As she walked away, I felt like I just signed away my soul. The next morning arrived too quickly. I stood outside the business building at 7:55, having barely slept. At exactly 8 o'clock, Zhang Yu strutted up, looking fresh and perfect in an outfit that probably cost more than my entire wardrobe. "You're here." "Good," she said, sounding almost disappointed that she couldn't complain about me being late. She handed me her heavy backpack without another word. "First rule, you walk 2 steps behind me, never beside me," she instructed. "Second rule, you speak only when spoken to." I bit my tongue to keep from saying something I'd regret. This was going to be a very long month. Days passed, and Zhang Yu seemed determined to test my limits. She made me wait outside her classes for hours just to carry her books to the next one. She sent me on coffee runs across campus, then complained they were too cold by the time I returned. She accidentally dropped things just to make me pick them up. The worst part was the public humiliation. "My servant needs to learn to be faster," she would say loudly to her friends while I stood there holding her things. Her friends would laugh, looking at me with a mixture of pity and disdain. I endured it all silently. I thought about my mom in the hospital fighting for her life. This temporary humiliation was nothing compared to what she was going through. 2 weeks into my sentence, something unexpected happened. I was sitting outside Zhang Yu's economics class, using the time to study for my own exams, when a group of guys approached. "Hey, you're Zhang Yu's new toy, right?" One of them snickered. I ignored them, focusing on my textbook. "I'm talking to you, coffee boy," he said, knocking my book to the ground. I took a deep breath before picking it up. "Leave me alone," I said quietly. "I'm trying to study." The guy laughed and turned to his friends. "Did you hear that?" They were still laughing when Zhang Yu's class ended. She came out, took in the situation with one glance, and to my surprise, her expression hardened. "Is there a problem here?" she asked sharply. The guy's attitude changed instantly. "No problem, you." Just having a chat with your helper, the lead guy said smoothly. Zhang Yu's eyes narrowed. He's busy helping me, which means he doesn't have time to chat with you. She turned to me. Let's go, Li Ming. I need your help with something. As we walked away, I couldn't hide my surprise. Why did you do that? I asked. She gave me a sideways glance. Do what? Stand up for me. You could have joined in with them. She was quiet for a moment, then said, don't read too much into it. You're my servant, not theirs. That's all. But something had shifted. The next day, as I carried her books to class, she asked me about my own studies. Economics? Are you any good at it? She asked casually. It's my major. And yes, I have a 3.9 GPA, I replied. She looked genuinely surprised. Really? Then why are you working at a coffee shop? The question made me pause. No one had asked me that before. My mom is sick, I said finally. Cancer. The treatment cost more than we can afford, so I work to help pay the bills. Zhang Yu stopped walking. For the first time, she really looked at me without that shield of superiority. I didn't know, she said softly. Why would you? I shrugged. I'm just a coffee boy, right? The sarcasm in my voice was unmistakable, and I expected her to get angry. Instead, she just studied my face for a long moment. You're more than that, she said finally. And I've been unfair. That afternoon, instead of making me wait outside her class, she invited me to join her study group. Her friends were shocked to see me sitting at their table rather than serving them. What's he doing here? One girl whispered loudly. He's helping me with economics, Zhang Yu replied coolly. Li Ming has a 3.9 GPA. The way she said it with pride almost confused me completely. Who is this girl and what had she done with the cruel princess I'd been serving? As the days passed, Zhang Yu's demands became less humiliating and more reasonable. She still had me carry her books, but now we walked side by side talking about classes, movies, life. She asked about my mom, showing genuine concern. I learned about her life, the pressure from her wealthy parents to be perfect, the loneliness behind her popular facade. Everyone wants to be my friend because of my family's money, she confessed one evening as we sat in the library. No one sees me. I see you, I said softly, surprising myself with the truth of it. She looked up, our eyes meeting in a way that made my heart race. The moment was broken by the arrival of Chen Wei, Zhang Yu's ex-boyfriend. Well, isn't this cozy? He sneered. The princess and the pauper. Zhang Yu tensed beside me. What do you want, Chen Wei? She asked coldly. His smile was anything but friendly. Just checking on the rumors. Apparently, you've replaced me with your coffee servant. I started to stand, but Zhang Yu put a hand on my arm. Li Ming is my friend, she said firmly, and what I do is none of your business anymore. Chen Wei's face darkened. Friend? Is that what you're calling it? Wait until everyone hears how you really spend your afternoons. As he walked away, Zhang Yu's hand was trembling. What was that about? She shook her head, her eyes filled with worry. Chen Wei is vindictive. When I broke up with him, he swore he'd get back at me someday. I couldn't have known then how right she was. The next morning, the campus was buzzing with a new rumor. Zhang Yu had allegedly been selling exam answers using me as her delivery boy. Students stared and whispered as we walked by. Is it true? I asked her when we were alone. Her eyes flashed with hurt. Of course not. Chen Wei made it all up. But the damage was spreading. By afternoon, the dean had called Zhang Yu in for questioning. I paced outside his office, torn between anger at Chen Wei and worry for Zhang Yu. When she emerged, her face was pale. They're launching an investigation, she said quietly. If they believe Chen Wei, I could be expelled. Something fierce rose inside me. I'd been pushed around all my life by poverty, by circumstances, by people like Chen Wei. But not anymore. I'm not letting him get away with this, I said, my voice steady with resolve. Zhang Yu looked up at me, a mix of hope and doubt in her eyes. What can we do? It's his word against mine. I thought for a moment. Chen Wei said we were selling exam answers, right? When exactly does he claim this happened? She frowned. According to the dean, it was last Tuesday afternoon in the science building. A slow smile spread across my face. Last Tuesday? When we were both volunteering at the children's hospital? The one with security cameras at every entrance? Her eyes widened with realization. The hospital visit. We have proof. I nodded. And about 20 witnesses, including your economics professor who organized the volunteer program. For the first time since I'd known her, Zhang Yu threw her arms around me in a genuine hug. Li Ming, you're brilliant, she exclaimed. The feeling of her against me was something I never wanted to forget. The next day, we presented our evidence to the dean. Not only did we have the hospital's visitor log and security footage, but also several faculty members who could verify our whereabouts. Chen Wei's lie unraveled quickly. By evening, the rumor mill had turned against him, and Zhang Yu was cleared of all suspicion. We celebrated with coffee at a small cafe off Minus campus by this time. You know, Zhang Yu said, looking at me over her cup, your month of service technically ends tomorrow. My heart sank a little at the reminder. So it does, I replied, trying to sound casual. You'll finally be rid of your coffee servant. She reached across the table and took my hand. What if I don't want to be rid of you? She asked softly. I stared at our joined hands, hardly daring to believe what I was hearing. Zhang Yu, I've been thinking, she interrupted. About how we met, about everything that's happened. I was horrible to you. You were, I agreed, making her smile reluctantly. But somehow, she continued, you saw through all that. You saw me, the real me. I squeezed her hand gently. And I like what I see, I said simply. She blushed, a sight I never thought I'd witness. So, what happens tomorrow? I asked. When I'm not your servant anymore. Zhang Yu smiled, her eyes bright with something new, something real. Tomorrow, she said, maybe we can just be Li Ming and Zhang Yu. No servants, no princesses, just us. I leaned forward, my heart racing. I'd like that, I whispered. That night as I walked home, I couldn't stop smiling. A month ago, spilling that coffee had seemed like the worst moment of my life. Now, I knew it was actually the beginning of something wonderful. Sometimes the greatest changes in our lives start with our biggest mistakes. And sometimes, what looks like a punishment turns out to be the best thing that could ever happen to you. The next day, I arrived at our meeting spot without her backpack to carry. Zhang Yu was already waiting, looking both nervous and beautiful. So, she said with a small smile, this is the first day of just being us. I nodded, feeling strangely light without her bags on my shoulder. What would you like to do today now that you're not my boss? I asked. She thought for a moment, then her face lit up with a genuine smile. Actually, she said, linking her arm through mine, I'd like to meet your mom. My heart swelled with emotion. She'd like that, I replied softly. She'd like you. As we walked together toward the hospital, I realized something profound. Sometimes life gives you exactly what you need, disguised as exactly what you don't want. A spilled coffee, a month of servitude, and somehow in the middle of it all, to people finding each other, finding themselves, finding something real in a world of pretense. And that's worth more than all the designer bags in the world.